Hello and welcome. If this is your first time joining me, and you're welcome back if you've been following along with me, I'm still Michael Beck, and right now I am thinking about just that feeling of burnout that comes from having a laundry list of things to do, and you put so much work and effort into getting those things done, and then you do them, and then without taking a breath or skipping a beat, there's one more thing, and then one more thing, and one more thing, and you just find yourself feeling like what have I accomplished? Like what have I really done? And the reason I have been thinking about that is because I so for a little bit of lore, I was laid off from my job in January of 2023, and so I was at a point where I didn't have my work, and so I did get unemployment, and then I got Medicaid for health insurance. But I had in my mind, what it would look like. Would it be helpful? Could I be accepted for SNAPs, which is like food stamps, and but just never had the wherewithal to try and get that. And so it's definitely been a process and a journey for me in just a number of ways, being willing to ask for help and support and assistance and being willing to receive it. And so it took a long time uh, to actually get that. So it was just later this month that I actually finally got snaps and got my EBT card that I can use to when I go to the grocery store, and it's kind of like acts like a debit card. Basically has an amount of money on it, and you can use that to buy food. And and so yeah, it was, something on paper so seemingly simple just took a lot of work and took a number of steps. I had to figure out how to apply, then I had to apply, and then once I got it, I had to figure out how to use it, and then kind of overcome some guilt and shame, and just also just feeling a manner of gravity and responsibility at the fact that I am using this money that is being bestowed to me, but that's not mine. I didn't earn it, and so yeah, I did that, and then found myself immediately like, okay, immediately like, what's the next thing? What's the next priority? What's the next thing I have to do? And I just had to pause and be like, what am I doing? Like this is not just something, another thing on the checklist. Like this was a milestone. And so I just wanted to take a moment to sit with and just acknowledge that, and celebrate it in some kind of a way. And so I think partly this video and sharing here is just a part of that, to just acknowledge and say, hey, like this is worth me talking about and mentioning. And while I acknowledge that something like snaps is definitely a privilege, and so I'm not trying to flaunt it, obviously it's not exactly something to boast about, but just, for me personally, acknowledging what it took and the fact that it's something that I have thought about, had a mind to do, been wanting to do, and then have finally received. And again, all the steps along the way that took to get to this point. So I just been thinking about milestones versus checklists, and just how we can have as I described, just a whole laundry list of things to do, and just working so hard and doing all those things, and just never feeling this sense of accomplishment, or like, is it worth it? And so thinking that maybe this just comes down to how we treat it. Do we treat these things like just another thing on the checklist, or do we actually treat it, as the milestone as it is? And yeah, it's something that, yeah, I mean, as much as it's good and helpful and appreciated to receive encouragement and affirmation from others, I think it's really, the saying happiness is an inside job. I think that most things are. And so, yeah, really something I'm trying to do is to just find ways of acknowledging the work that I'm doing, and trying to be proud of myself for the things that I'm doing. And maybe, if I can manage that, or work on doing better about that, then maybe, I can actually have this sense of a feeling of accomplishment, feeling of growth, feeling of actually like really getting something done and achieving something. And then maybe having a bit less of a feeling of burnout from that feeling of just doing things, just to do them and just to check them off. And even just thinking about, yeah, how it's hard to, to be really avoidant of like doing things with a fear of failure. And then so how much it is to like overcome that fear, and to not just be avoidant, and but again to not give the time and the acknowledgement. And so, yeah, just really trying to break the whatever cycle there may be, and trying to do things differently. And really, yeah, just trying to not just have things be boxes to check off, but actually having these milestone moments where I can pause and reflect and say like, hey, like I did this, and I achieved this, and this was a point of growth for me. And see how, yeah, I can achieve things, and good things can happen, and or things can not go as worse as I expect them to. And so, yeah, that's just something that I've been thinking about and wanted to share with you. And yeah, maybe that's something that you've experienced too, and maybe something you can work on along with me as we try to find pride in ourselves. And yeah, going back to just the feeling of reluctance and avoidance and the fear of failure. I think there's also just, yeah, it's hard to, yeah, to pause and reflect and have these moments to celebrate, when there's just so much, can be so much, yeah, like anxiety and stress involved. And then if you add trauma on top of it, and then maybe throw in some attention deficit, and then when so much of it kind of feels like it comes down to memory, and certainly stress and trauma and ADHD can make you struggle with memory. But yeah, trying to do what one can to have a mind and a memory for, yeah, the again, the things that you accomplish, rather than just like working so hard and doing so much, but only remembering the failures and the setbacks. Trying to have a moment to, again, of pride, to be like, hey, like here's all these things that I've done well, these things that have gone well. And so, yeah, just thinking about that. And yeah, maybe if you want to again share with me, and just reflecting. I know it's not like, maybe this is kind of like a New Year's thing, but just having these periods to just check in and say like, hey, like, um, what have I done, with the thought of like, surely I have, done something, and trying to really think about like, what are the things that I have done, as much as easy again to like dismiss and be like, oh, I haven't done anything, but surely, as hard as most of us work, um, and care about growing and bettering ourselves, and being a contributing member of society, that surely there are things that we are doing and things that we're working on. And, you know, and I guess even if we're not necessarily achieving things, just being able to acknowledge that we are working hard, and that is definitely something to keep going and not give up. So I think that's all I've got for now. But thank you as always for taking the time to consider these thoughts with me. Till next time, please stay well and take care. All right.